So guys, I realized I never made an update video on the car before we went to test and tune, and I figured I'd show you guys the car and so talk about some of the changes that I had to make. Some of them good, some of them bad, some of them were planned, some of them weren't. So we'll get into that in this video, and we'll try to kind of go from, showing you the car to showing you things that I need to do because there's safety concerns and I need to remedy them before I go racing again. All right, guys, so for the most part, the car has been good. I've been trying to drive it, trying to race it. Obviously, we went to test and tune. Yesterday, I put about 60 miles on it, and it's been, majority of it has been good. There's been issues arising that obviously need to be remedied and taken care of. As far as the car as a whole is working good, there's no complaints on its function. I just have been chasing leaks and other things. The catch can, phenomenal. I probably need to change these hoses out because they're not really rated for the temp. But it works great. It's literally only ever water that comes out of here, which is, it steams out of this thing here and people look at you, which the car has gotten some looks from people, and a little kid asked his dad the other day what the car was, and his dad told him it was a Nova, or a first gen Nova, and I kind of laughed. I didn't correct him, it doesn't matter. But I still got a drain leak that is it's not really bad, but I need to reconfigure my mount for the turbo. And that's something that I'm probably not going to get to before I try to take it back to the track. It only really just smolders a little bit. This has basically diesel oil in it, so it really resists burning. And I have a fire extinguisher in the car. That's probably a safety issue, but we're going to go ahead and disregard it. I got my seat mounted. I got my passenger seat mounted. And I took my girlfriend out to ice cream, so we threw the 3 points in. You can see this is a skinny guy seat, and that's a chunky man seat. That's a 20-inch. This is a 17. Weird thing about these cars, A-body Mopars, is the tunnel is offset in the car, which is offset this way. So the engine's actually offset this way. I'm not sure why they did that. Some people theorize that it's because of the slant 6, but a slant 6 leans this way. So if you've ever worked on a body with a slant 6 in it, you'll know it is a complete pain to get to the points and stuff down with the fender wells in. Anyways, I don't want to bore you guys, but I got temp gauge, RPM, my hook. I had my draggy up on my suction cup for speed yesterday. Like I said, I drove it probably 60 miles yesterday. It's a good time. We did change the pinion angle. It didn't fix the vibration, so I guess I'll start getting into the, well, let me show you real quick, I guess. I don't think I ever showed you guys the wiring in the car. So this is where my panel is. I had it up under the dash, and I kind of thought, man, this would be kind of nice to have it, four door, open it up, diagnose all your wiring there, and just have it easy access, which is, it's how it is. It's a very convenient setup, so I might as well use, you know, how the car is designed. I don't really use this back here other than to like throw things in. Like my laptop bag usually stays back there. I don't know why that hinge or that little spring there is always seized up. So my thoughts on fixing the driveline vibration is to get another, basically shim the mount up 1/4 of an inch, because as my trans goes, it's like pointed down at the rear end, which on the 400, the crazy thing is I never had a vibration with the Turbo 400. So from switching to the Glide, all I've really done is change the mount. Obviously they're not the same distance. And the only thing I can see as far as looking at the Turbo 400 mount to where the Glide mount is like 1/2 of an inch lower, which I'm gonna start with 1/4 of an inch and make a shim for here, and that'll space it up into the trans, up in towards the cab some more. And then hopefully, please don't mind the mess, I'm working on that today. I'm not really doing much on the car, but hopefully that'll fix some of the issue. If not, then I'm gonna have to take the drive shaft out and basically have it rechecked for balance. So I guess let's get into the looming problem that I've had. And let me adjust this. There we go. All right, guys, so if you remember, and I don't know if I even ever posted it. I posted it on my Facebook, but anyways, when I first started this thing, when I first got the engine and everything together, put the converter in, all that stuff, it had no catch can on the trans, and it seemed like you'd shut it off, it'd puke out roughly about that much, maybe a little bit less than that. It was a pretty good sized puddle of what, you know, would come out. Not probably about half of that cup there that you can see is full, or close to full. But it seems like every time it did that, and I kind of, the first time or two, I kind of chalked it up as maybe the trans is over full and it's going to find its level or whatever. And you know, I said, well, I want to go racing, so I'll put a catch can on it. Well, I put the catch can on it, and then it started basically the cheap fittings up where it mounts to the trans above the cooler lines, started peeing out around that fitting. And I'm like, man, I can't believe there's that much pressure where it won't go into the catch can. And it's not really that it's got a bunch of pressure, it's the fittings were super cheap. So I did some truck stop fittings or truck supply fittings. You can see those are like a push lock DOT airline. I don't really know how they'll handle the heat long term, but so far they've been working, other than, you know, the issues I'm having, which isn't related to the fitting. So I get that to stop leaking, and it seemed like every time I shut it off, it would fill the catch can halfway. And I'm like, man, at some point you got to just think that maybe the thing, there's something wrong, and that it's not just an overfull thing. And like I went to that test and tune, and like every pass we were draining it, and it would drain out like half of that tub, like basically I think like 2/3 of a cup or whatever of ATF. And I'm like, man. And it, you know, finally got to the point where it was starting to, like, the pump was starting to whine. And I'm like, this thing's got to be getting low on fluid. And I check it, and it's where I think it should be by the time, as far as relatively checking, you know, where the pan level. They say these glides are supposed to run 1/8 of an inch above the pan level. And I've got a mark on my dipstick where that is, and it's a little above that. And I'm like, man, this thing's kind of making some noise for you know, being correct level. And So I put a little in it, and I don't think much of it. Well, I drove it yesterday. So I we went to make those passes at the track. We were draining it every time. And I think the last run before it rained, we went to check it, emptied it, and then we went to run the last time. And when we went to load it back on the trailer, I noticed when I was strapping it down that there was fluid underneath the car, basically the cooler lines, everything, but you could tell it was blowing out of that little breather on top of the catch can. So it filled the catch can over full and then went out. And I was kind of thinking, it's lower than what I want to run it, and it just continually keeps blowing out. And long story short, I didn't touch it. I drove it into the shop and yada yada. And the thing is, everything works. It's the trans works. It shifts fine. It's fast. It's firm. Everything like that. So I don't think I have a line pressure issue, but everything I've been reading as far as the issue of this is that it's a pump gasket issue, as far as the pump gasket is tore or feeding basically cooler flow into the vent, or that I have a pump flatness issue as far as the pump halves, which is what I'm kind of leaning towards. So when I took this TCI pump and got it, and obviously it didn't have a feed restrictor in it, and so what I did was take the pump halves apart and drilled it for 1/8 of an inch feed restrictor, installed the feed restrictor, and basically when I drilled the pump half, I drilled it a little bit bigger so I wasn't tapping the very edge of the pump, and then I tapped it, and then put my restrictor in, and then I took a knife stone, like a flattening stone basically, and I flattened it out as best as possible. But what I'm thinking is I've got a internal leak there. So what I'm going to do to minimize downtime is I'm going to go through Jack from Squirrel Tuned, and he's a Hughes dealer, and I bought most of my stuff for the trans when I did the trans build from Hughes, and they've took really good care of me, and they've been very helpful as far as diagnosing it. I was gonna ask them what their opinion is on this, but from what I've read and how much trouble I had with the input shaft and stuff, and in and out, and how many times I've reused that pump, it could be that the bolts are loose on the pump, but I don't think that that's the case, because I'm kind of anal when it comes to things like that. I torque a lot of things, and I get yelled at a lot for that at work, because most guys will just bang it in with the impact. I like to torque things. It's just, I like to take the extra 30 seconds to torque it, and then I feel like I don't have to worry about it. And I could be flat out like wrong here, but anyways, before I get on the rant of that, I feel like it is the pump halves not being completely flat is what my thoughts are. What I should have did, and what I kind of I was on the road to doing that, and then I'm like, man, I like this TCI pump better or whatever. It's got a bolt-in stator is what I was thinking. And so I already talked to Jack about this pump. I'm like, hey, can you do this already restricted? And I think he said yeah before, and I'm like, well, I talked to him again, because he helped me with the tune in this too. But I talked to him, and I'm like, hey, are these on back order? Because that would be my luck. They're on back order. And how soon can you get me one? I'm ready to buy something that I can just, take it out of the box, slap it in, and just have no more issues. And so he's going to get me yes, no on Monday, talking to Pete at Hughes. And I also asked him to ask Pete if they could take the pump that's in there and recheck it for flatness, redeck it or whatever, and test it, see if it's that. That's where we're at with the pump situation. And like I say, I don't really want to buy another pump. I have another pump over there that I don't really trust that it's good to go. So I don't want to chance it. I just want to have minimal downtime, take the trans out, put the new pump in, and send the other pump off to Pete. Hopefully have him look it over and all that jazz. Just want minimal downtime as far as, having stuff tore apart. I got a couple more races I want to make. If we don't have, if we can't get a pump, obviously I'll check other places, but I can't race like this is basically what I'm saying. I can't. If I turn it up, I assume the leak's going to get worse. And it's a safety issue. I can't have not antifreeze. I can't have ATF under my tires while I'm trying to race. I can't put down ATF on the track when other people are trying to race. And driving on the road's one thing. It's probably not a good idea. I didn't know it was leaking nearly that much. And at the point where we came back from ice cream, and after I got done driving, I looked under the car and it's just soaked. I'm like, man, got to reevaluate and change some stuff. So anyways, I guess another thing that I'll be updating, I didn't really plan on doing any front end work to the car this winter, and this will not happen this year, or not this race season. But the bump steer is kind of on this car, and the turning radius for these arms that I built really suck. So you can see that my lower arms down there I built. These are a good band-aid to run a rear sump, but the turning radius just sucks on it. It's like I went to go turn a corner yesterday when I was out driving it, and it's like, man, I don't think I'm gonna make this corner. And it was like a 120 degree corner, but it was pretty sharp or whatever. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make this. And luckily there's no traffic coming or whatever. But so my plans for that are, I bought a used slant 6 K-member out of a car like this. It's a newer one, but the mounting points are all the same. I'll show you guys it here in just a second. So here it is. Nothing special, don't really care what it looks like. I'm going to use this as a fixture, and I'm going to take that SN95 K-member that I have in the other part of the barn, and I'm going to butcher it up to run a single lower arm Mustang, like Fox Body Mustang style front suspension. So when I tried to put this in my Capri, which I bought this thing cheap, it did not fit. There was no redeeming qualities of this thing fitting. I had to use a pin bar and pry it, and I'm like, this thing is never gonna align correctly if it's like that. And I had another K-member that was more complete, and it had the arms and stuff on it. I'm like, that one was cheaper when I bought it than this one. This one was like $150. The other one I bought for $125, and then plus the arms. But so that one was cheaper, and I took this one out when I was trying to bolt it into the Fox Body, and I was like, maybe this car is crashed up, but it doesn't look like it's all wrinkled. So I took the other K-member, just boop, goes right in. And for those that are gonna ask, it's not these parts that were misaligned. It's the two here. So I don't know if this K member is like pinched or pushed out or something, but it just... So anyways, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it from here and just lop that off, use that whole lower section there, and then flip it over on top of that other K member, center it obviously, and then use the attachment points to build a fixture. And then I'll use those lower control arms to basically, level it front to back in the car of where the wheels will end up. And as far as, up and down. And then I'll take that once I get it tacked together. And once this car is down for the year, pull the motor out, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll do it with a motor in, maybe I won't, I don't know. And cut everything off. Here, like the upper control arm mounts, cut all that stuff off. And then I'll have to mount the strut up to this bar, obviously, this cage bar. Excuse me. And just go single strut. We'll drop the torsion bars, we'll drop the cross member, we'll drop the upper and lower control arm weight, the steering, and hopefully that'll drop me probably 100 pounds. It'll be real close to 100 pounds if it's not 100 pounds. I'm going to overbuild the K member mount, obviously, but just the complexity of this, like the torsion bars and stuff that run up and down the car are heavy. The torsion bar ends where they mount into the lower control arm. A lot of that is really thick steel. So I'm hoping that'll drop quite a bit of considerable amount of weight off the front. And I'll have better brakes, more aftermarket support for it. Like I can run a pretty decent, you can buy like really nice shocks or struts, I guess, for the front of Fox body. And the cool thing about that is I don't have to rely on not knowing, hey, I don't know how much these struts lean back, or how much they lean in. I can walk over here and I've got one, and I can be like, oh, well, I'll put a gauge on there, and I'll know what degree its layback is and what degree its lay-in is, and how far apart the struts are mounted, and I'll just use this as a template, which is cool. And then I'll have cars that are compatible, which I think is cool. Maybe that's a goofy way of thinking about it, but if I don't foresee me breaking a lower control arm or anything, but that's kind of my way of thinking. I hope this video isn't too long. I don't lose people's attention on that, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys an up-to-date on where the car is at, what we're struggling with. For those of you that stick around, I'm really hoping to make a low 6-second pass in the 8th, obviously, in this car this year. So that's really my personal goal. And if that means throwing some money down to travel out of state to race, that might happen, even though I hate traveling. People that know me know I hate traveling. I just need to keep chopping away at it and keep working towards making a good pass, turning it up, making safe, repeatable power, and all that. But until I get all these safety concerns figured out, that's not even on the table. I can't make a 6-second pass with having ATF spewing out. This is not, I'm not interested. So that's the plan. That's what we're going to try. That's what we're going to do. Thank you, Jack at Squirrel Tuned, for helping me out with the tune and for getting me pricing and stuff on this pump. Thank you, Pete at Hughes, or the whole Hughes team, for all the parts on the trans build. Thank you, Bailey, my buddy who helped me on the car, helped me test and tune. Thank you, my girlfriend, for supporting me, driving myself insane, my family, and all the other people that have helped me along the way. Derek at Slower Than You, thank you if you watch this far. And at this point, I'm just babbling. So I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you for watching.